Hi class, this is HNC level 4, the apprenticeship scheme regarding unit 6, which is construction information with specification, detailing and drawing. This focus looks at the tutorial of developing section details and a bit of the specification and how it works in terms of your assignment. Now, a lot of questions have been raised of, do we need a specification? Because I put up a how-to guide on creating a specification. What a spec is basically specific information in order to allow you to develop the work as a contractor. So therefore, if we are producing information such as construction information for a contractor to build, therefore we need to provide specific detail to allow that contractor to go away and work without having to come back to the designer, i.e. yourselves who develop these drawings, to ask, what is this material? What do you want done here? How deep are the foundations? How wide are the foundations? Because what you're producing in front of you is enough information to allow that contractor to go and build. Now, what you've got in front of you, that's just a typical ground floor. I should have written that in there. And what pencil do we use? HB. Okay, let me just find that. And I should have said this is ground floor. Okay, so although this is just a rough drawing, this is just a tutorial of ground, I should have said ground development. Floor. Okay, just to identify that this is looking at that plan. Now, have you noticed that I actually put in a bit more information? I put a bit of hatching around the outside, which just shows the existing building. I put a little key up there. You do not need to do that. I'm just showing you that I'm looking at the ground floor plan. And that full well, if you look a bit closer, you can see that the dashed line, which shows the foundations underneath our structure, that is actually showing that this is beneath because it's lighter. And can you see that I've actually darkened the outline wall, which is 330 thick in our case. I've darkened it using an outline pencil. Now, I don't typically draw in pencil, but I'm showing you how I did on paper, so therefore you can get an act for it, and therefore you get a bit more competent with it. But I'm using a 2B just to outline the walls to show you that this is the area that I'm looking at. This is standing out, and that below it is slightly lighter, which is the foundations. Now, if you're asking me why have I not drawn the foundations across here and across here, and it's okay if you've done this, do not worry, that's not the problem. I've done it because I don't know what the existing building foundations look like. So therefore, our wall may well be sitting slightly on the existing foundations. It's not the best scenario because we'd like that our structures is independent, therefore it only works on itself. However, most cases where we have to develop a building next to another, we have to consider the foundations which are close by. But that's just something to think about, not something that you have to worry about in your assignment. So I'm happy that if you've drawn a foundation outline going around the building, absolutely fine. Now, the difference between a section and section details. Section details contain specifications, specifics, i.e. joist hangers, what type of brickwork, what type of material is it? Is it block work on the inner skin? Is it brickwork on the outer skin? Or is it both block and brick? Sorry, brick and brick, etc., etc. In our case, you should be able to tell me that this hatching indicates brickwork, a double line, okay? And this dash just means that something below, hidden. Blue was just to identify an existing building. Okay, so we've cleared that up. Notice that I've not put any windows nor doors. This is just a basic tutorial on how to develop a section detail, okay? So, the first thing is, what's the difference between a section and a section detail? Now, a section, what you're going to have to do, and I'm going to do it in blue, which means you ignore it, but a section detail is cutting your building from one side to the other, straight across, as if you're cutting a cake. So, let's just do a quick mini tutorial. If I had a cake, here is my cake, and I've drawn it in a 3D perspective. Now on the outside, it looks very beautiful, nice, icing dripping down, okay, etc., etc. But I want to see what it looks like in the inside. So what I do is I come across and I cut my cake in half. Ooh, it's broken. I cut my cake in half, right down the middle. And if I were to move that cake away, or this half of the cake, if you're looking at it from a bird's eye view, this cake we've just cut in half. If I was to remove this side of the cake, what you would see is this, going down here. This is just a 2D perspective now, instead of the 3D. Now I develop the 3D. I'll see layers. Jam, whatever. I'm sorry I did cake, just in case you're hungry. However, can you see that the inside section doesn't match the outer exterior of the building, or in our case, this cake. Okay, you can't see the icing, but what you could probably see is the icing dripping down here on the edge. Okay? But that is a section, and you need to produce 2 of those in your drawing. So, one section that cuts right through your building, let's call that XX. And another one typically in the opposite direction, which goes across here. YY. Now be careful here. Please do not repeat using the same markers. Notice that I've drawn these funny little taglines, or these little markers. They are to indicate 2 things. The direction you are looking at the building, for example, at the moment you're looking from a bird's eye view. Now you need to orientate yourself as if you're looking this way, looking through the building this direction. Okay. Secondly, I've not drawn a whole line that goes straight across the building. Firstly, that's quite distracting and it's not neat. But secondly, it indicates that this marker belongs to this one. They are directly across each other. Same as this one. Okay. Now the extent of where you put this marker, and it's usually about here, okay, just an equal distance apart, is the point where you develop your drawing. So from this point to this point. For example, let me just draw it quickly on a sketch. I've got that building below. Let me just quickly draw it here. That's my building, rough sketch. Very, very poorly drawn. And I have a marker that does that, and I called it XX in our case. So therefore I need to look at that direction, but not in a bird's eye view. So therefore I'll most likely see my building like that, where the extents of my markers are, my extent of the markers. That's when my drawing finishes. That's when my drawing finishes. And the nice thing is all I have to do is draw straight lines down. You're going to be light. You're not going to be drawing with an outline pencil. You're going to be drawing with a H pencil, so that's light. Okay, let's put a rough roof on it. Okay. Now, because this is ground floor, we don't know if it's got a roof above it, but we definitely know it's got a floor above it compared to our assignment. So therefore we could say that this is definitely going to be first floor up here. It's got to be first floor. But I'm not interested about that. I want to know what the ground below looks like. And I said roughly each floor, the ceiling is about 3 meters. So we have something like this. Okay. Something like this. The most basic interpretation of that drawing looks like this. Foundations, grade hatched, reinforced, brickwork, brickwork, brickwork. This indicates brickwork. I apologize, it's really poorly drawn. This is not what I wanted to focus on. This is just to clarify the difference between a section and detail. And obviously you can see here that this is ground, which most likely would also match the outside, because where you've drawn your extent of the building, that's where you draw yours, and then the hatching for soil or earth. Okay? Does that make sense? So it looks like that. That's how you developed your drawing. Now this may be joist, it might be concrete, I don't know. So that's why I've left it with a bit more, without a bit of detail. But we could just say that this is definitely ground. And if you wanted to go further, you can give me the spotlight height level, which is on your drawings or your drainage layout. So we've gone from here, plan, your foundation outline on your drawings, to a section detail across your building. You need to do 2 of those, and that needs to go right to the top of the building. So I haven't yet finished this drawing, so what I can do is put in break lines to indicate that this is partially drawn with ground floor only. And this break line indicates that it's broken and therefore there's another part of the building. Okay? Fantastic. Your drawings need to be scale. This was just a quick development of how a section differs from a section detail. Now let's go on to the section detail, going back to the original drawing that we started with. Right, we need to know how to develop a drawing. So we leave our markers in, that's brilliant. I'm going to leave them there. Now there's a different type of marker. So you've got this one here, and I'm going to draw it on the right hand side. So I'm going to draw it down here. These are your different types of markers. So I should do it over here. You can have a marker like that, which is fine, absolutely fine. And you'd put the letter that denotes what you're looking at here. Or you can have something that looks like that with a circle on the end with a slight arrow attached. It's up to you. The reason why I like this marker more is because in here you can actually write a drawing number. Typically that's what they do in industry. So you could put your drawing number here. Ours, it doesn't matter, as long as you've got enough letters generated in order that I can look at your section detail to say, okay, I've drawn a section here, I've drawn a section here, I've cut through here, and I'm calling this A. Therefore, when I look at your section details and I look at AA, I can see that it matches this point here. Okay, that's the only difference. So it's up to you. Right, ground floor. You're producing 2 section details per each floor. I'm going to show you how to do it for ground floor, and then we'll see how we get along to develop the rest. Okay, but I'm just going to show you a tutorial of how I generated a section detail here, and I'm going to show you how I generate a section detail potentially here, depending on time. Okay, and I'm going to call it BB. Therefore, when you produce your second chunk of your building, i.e. from 1st to 4th, you're going to call that C, D. And then at roof, you're going to have E and F. Those are your 6 detailed drawings. You're going to produce your detailed drawing on a separate piece of paper. So let me get in the habit of doing that. Here's my spare sheet of paper. I'm going to have this ready, looking at this section at all times. Okay, I was going to show you the information here, but let's just, for good practice, we'll do it on a separate A3. Put the borders in, all the same thing you should be doing on trace. Otherwise, if you're not very confident, you can do it in pencil, but you can still draw in pencil with your trace and just go over in pen. But make sure you make the mistakes with pencil first before you go over in pen. Right, I need to develop that section of wall, which is here. So I'm going to have it slightly below so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to develop the drawing here, just so you can understand what's going on. Now I can clearly see a wall, so what I could do is draw lines down to match that wall, but I'm not doing that. Okay, I'm going to try and develop it in my head and put it on the piece of paper, because there's a few things I need to know. Notice I've not put any dimensions on this piece of paper. Reason being is because someone can come along with a scaled ruler and measure this building and will understand how long these distances are. But you don't know whether I've drawn a 2 brick thick wall or whether I have a cavity construction. Now, I've deliberately drawn it as a thick wall, but I actually have a cavity construction. The reason being why I've drawn it like this thick wall is because you wouldn't be able to understand the lines which go between. It's too thin. Okay, it's too mucky. It looks terrible. So therefore, my section detail will complement my plan drawing by identifying what actual my details of the wall looks like. So the contractor can come along, actually no, he's got a cavity construction here. It's not a brick thick wall, but what he's done the plan for is to allow us to see how long the wall